What if people forgot how to read? Have you ever thought about what would happen if people forgot how to read? Imagine waking up one morning, going to your phone, and not understanding a single word. The letters look strange, like little bugs walking across the screen. You try to read a message from your friend, but it looks like a puzzle. You blink, you focus, you try again, but no use. Reading is gone. Vanished, just like that. At first, you might laugh. Haha, maybe I'm too sleepy. But then you look at your coffee jar, no label. You open the fridge, no words. You go outside, and all the signs look like random shapes. Stop now, looks like S. At hash. The world would suddenly feel strange and quiet. Not because people stop talking, but because all the written voices disappear. Books, newspapers, websites, street signs, food packages, all full of silent symbols no one understands anymore. How would people live in such a world? Maybe at first, everyone would panic. Students would cheer, no homework. Teachers might cry. No lessons, parents would look confused. How do we read bills? Shops would have no names. Supermarkets would have no prices or product labels. People would walk around asking, is this milk or yogurt? Is this shampoo or cooking oil? Some mistakes would be funny, others not so much. Imagine brushing your teeth with mayonnaise or putting soap in your coffee. Life would become an adventure, but also a little dangerous. Libraries would become quiet places full of paper no one can read. Books would look beautiful, colorful covers, pictures, old pages, but they would be like locked treasure chests. Everyone would want to open them, but no one would have the key. Some people might sit in libraries and just hold the books, remembering the old days. Children might ask, Mom, what are these marks? And parents would answer, those are letters. Long ago, people used them to share stories. Storytelling would return. Grandparents would become famous again. They would sit in parks or online if they can still use the internet, and tell stories with their voices. People would listen more. There would be laughter, songs, and imagination again, just like the old times before writing was invented. But still, many would miss reading. Because reading is not only about words, it's about freedom. Freedom to learn, to dream, to understand the world. Now imagine your phone. No reading means no texting, no emails, no Google searches, no social media. You open your favorite app, but you can't read the buttons. How would people communicate online? Maybe everyone would start using emojis and voice messages only. A text might look like this, and you'd have to guess what it means. Or maybe artificial intelligence would help. You could speak, and your device would speak back. No reading needed. You'd say, order pizza, and your phone would call the restaurant for you. Technology would change fast to help humans who can't read. Voice assistants, pictures, colors, and signs would become more important than words. The internet would look like one giant picture book. Traveling would be funny and scary. Airports and train stations would have no readable signs. You'd have to follow colors, arrows, or pictures. Imagine every country replacing signs like exit or gate 5 with images, a running person, a plane, a suitcase. Maps would have symbols only. People might need guides to help them move around. New jobs would appear, reading helpers. They would guide people through airports, hospitals, or offices. Maybe they would wear bright jackets that say, "Ask me for help." Driving would be harder too. Street signs would need new designs. Maybe green means go, red means stop, and yellow means be careful. Just like traffic lights, but for everything. What about schools? At first, teachers would not know what to do. No reading, no writing. How do we learn? But humans are creative. Teachers would start using pictures, videos, sounds, and games. Children would learn by listening, speaking, drawing, and watching. Math might still be fine. Numbers stay numbers. But history, literature, and science, much harder. Instead of reading books, children would watch animated stories. They would learn about space from virtual reality headsets. They would learn about Shakespeare through a play acted out by AI avatars. Homework would sound like, "Listen to this story and tell me what you think," or draw what you learned about dinosaurs. Maybe school would become more fun, less stress, more creativity. But also, people might forget many facts. When no one writes things down, memories fade. Imagine going shopping. You can't read the names of the products. How do you know what you're buying? Shops might replace labels with pictures and colors. A red label means spicy. A blue label means cold. A green label means healthy. A yellow one means sweet. People might choose products by shape, smell, or sound. Food packages could talk when you press them. "Hello, I'm pasta. Boil me for 10 minutes. Hi, I'm chocolate. Eat me and smile." That would be funny, but also loud. Imagine walking through a store where every product talks. Buy me, eat me, try me. Supermarkets would sound like concerts. At work, things would change too. Emails and documents would disappear. Meetings would use pictures, charts, and spoken notes. People who remember reading might become leaders. They can still read old records, maps, or contracts, but soon reading would be forgotten completely. People would invent new ways to share information. For example, a restaurant menu would have pictures only. A hospital might use icons to show what hurts head, leg, stomach. Banks would use voice passwords. Movies and shows would explain themselves with symbols. And artists would become very popular, because now images are everything. With no words, the world might become more colorful. Signs, ads, and posters would use shapes and bright colors to talk. A big red apple picture would mean fruit shop. A smiling house would mean hotel. Cities would look like cartoons, simple but full of meaning. People would pay attention to details, a symbol, a sound, a color pattern. Art would take the place of writing. Graffiti would become a new kind of newspaper. Walls would speak through drawings. Without reading, people would talk more face to face. You couldn't send long texts, so you'd visit your friends more often. Neighborhoods would become more social again. At the same time, miscommunication could happen easily. Without written words, everything depends on tone, gesture, and trust. If someone says, "Meet me at 5," and you forget, there's no written reminder. You'd have to rely on memory and honesty. People would invent new gestures and signs to explain things. Maybe waving your hands in a circle means, "Let's meet later." Or tapping your nose means, "I agree." A whole new language of movement would appear. Reading helps the brain remember things. Without it, memory would change. People might forget details faster, but become better listeners. Grandparents would tell stories, and kids would repeat them. That's how history would stay alive, through voices and hearts. But stories might change each time, like a big game of telephone. One day, a story about a cat might turn into a legend about a tiger. And people would love it because stories would grow like living things. Somewhere, a few people might still remember how to read. They would be like time travelers, holding the key to the past. They might try to teach others, but it would be hard. People would say, "Why learn?" We have pictures now, and slowly, reading might become a secret skill. Maybe one day, a curious child finds an old book and decides to learn again. They stare at the letters, trying to make sense of them. Bit by bit, they read a word and then another. The letters begin to speak again. That child could start a new revolution, the return of reading. A world without reading would be very different, full of color, sound, and creativity, but also confusion. Some things might be easier, some harder. People would be closer because they talk more. But knowledge might become smaller because it's not written down. Humans might realize how important reading really is. It connects people across time and space. It keeps stories alive forever. Reading is more than words. It's how we see ideas. Of course, some things would just be funny. Imagine movie posters with no text, only faces, or trying to use a recipe app that shows only pictures. A birthday card might have no words, just a big cake and a smiley face. Traffic signs might show dinosaurs instead of words, just for fun. And schools might have reading classes where no one reads, only guessing games. Maybe even reading competitions would come back one day like a sport. People would sit together trying to remember old letters. A, B, C. Wait, what comes next? And everyone would laugh. Even if people forgot how to read, one thing would never disappear: the desire to understand. Humans always find ways to share stories with pictures, with sounds, with feelings. Maybe reading would return one day, or maybe a new kind of reading would appear. Reading faces, reading art, reading the world itself. Because reading is not just about letters. It's about connection, imagination, and curiosity. And those things will always live inside us. What do you think? If people forgot how to read, how would your life change? Would your city look brighter and full of pictures? Would schools sound different, with songs instead of books? Would you enjoy a world of talking packages and emoji messages? Think about the books you love, the signs you see, and the little words that guide your day. What if they all disappeared tomorrow? What would that feel like? We would love to hear your thoughts. Please share your ideas and feelings in the comments below. Tell us what reading means to you and why you think it's important for our world. Your voice can inspire others to care more about learning. Let's start a conversation and make a small change together.